I talk to a lot of people who are selling a home because something big happened in their life. And usually it's not a happy reason. It's downsizing after living somewhere for a really long time, or losing a parent, or inheriting a house they never expected to deal with. And almost every single person says some version of the same thing to me. I don't even know where to start. And honestly, that makes total sense. What people don't realize is that this is actually the moment when people make the biggest financial mistakes with real estate, not because they're careless, not because they don't care, but because everything feels heavy all at once. There's grief, stress, family opinions, paperwork, and then suddenly someone is asking you to make six-figure decisions. That's a lot. I work with seniors who are downsizing and with families who are dealing with inherited homes. And I can tell you, most of the problems I see don't come from bad intentions. They come from feeling rushed and not having clear information. That's really why I wanted to make this video. Not to sell you anything, not to scare you, just to slow things down for a few minutes and talk through what I see over and over again. Let me give you a real example of what I mean by this. I've worked with people who came to me already exhausted, not because the sale itself was hard, but because everything around it was heavy. One situation I see a lot is when someone loses a parent. The house becomes this emotional space. It's full of memories. And at the same time, it suddenly feels like a responsibility that needs to be handled immediately. I've had adult children tell me they felt pressure from all sides, siblings wanting different things, extended family members giving opinions, and someone in their ear saying, "You should list this right away before the market changes." And in that moment, they're not thinking clearly because how could they be? They're grieving, they're tired, and now they're being asked to make decisions that could affect their finances for the rest of their lives. Another example I see often is seniors who have lived in a home for 30, 40, 50 plus years. They know they need to downsize, but they're emotionally attached to the house. And at the same time, they're being told it's now or never. They start feeling like the home itself is a problem that needs to be solved quickly. But what they really need is time to understand their options. I've seen situations where someone was ready to list immediately, and after one calm conversation, realized there was no rush at all. No deadline, no emergency, just pressure that they had absorbed from everyone else. And once that pressure was removed, everything changed. They made better decisions, they asked better questions, and they felt more in control. That's what clarity does. It doesn't affect the sale. It affects how people feel about the entire experience afterwards. One of the first things I usually have to tell people is this: you probably don't need to sell as fast as you think you do. I know it feels urgent. Everyone around you might be telling you to just get it done. But in most cases, there isn't some deadline forcing you to make a decision tomorrow. And when people rush, that's usually when money gets left on the table. And sometimes it's a lot of money. Just taking a breath, even for a short time, can completely change the outcome. Another thing I see a lot of is stress driving the decision. And I want to be really clear here. Being emotional doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means this matters. But when stress is in the driver's seat, people start doing things like taking the first offer just to make the anxiety stop, pricing the home lower than it needs to be because they're exhausted, or skipping steps that could have helped because they just don't have the energy. I've seen homes sell for far way less than they should have, not because the market was bad, but because no one slowed down enough to explain the options. That part is completely avoidable. Then there's the advice. Everyone has advice. Family members, friends, neighbors, and most of them all mean well. But real estate advice gets outdated really fast. What worked for someone else 5 or 10 years ago might not apply to your home, your market, or your situation at all. And inherited homes and long-term homes are a completely different animal than a normal sale. There is no one-size-fits-all answer here. Something else people don't always realize is that selling isn't just one path. There isn't only one right way to do this. Sometimes selling as is the right choice. Sometimes doing a little prep makes a big difference. And sometimes waiting actually helps. The goal isn't to do what sounds impressive or what someone else thinks you should do. The goal is to do what makes sense for you financially and emotionally. I also want to say this, and this matters. If someone is pressuring you, pay attention. If you're hearing things like, you need to decide right now, this offer won't be here tomorrow, or the market is about to fall apart, that's pressure. A good professional doesn't rush you. They explain things until they make sense. You should leave conversations feeling more confident and informed, not overwhelmed or stressed. And if the process feels confusing, that's not your fault. You should understand what's happening, what comes first, what comes next, and what actually matters. You are allowed to ask questions. Heck, I encourage my clients to ask questions because I want them to know what is going on in the process. You're allowed to say, I don't get this, or can you explain that to me again? This is your home. This is your money. Clarity is not too much to ask for. Here's the big picture. Selling a home during a life change isn't just a transaction. It's emotional and it's personal, and it sticks with people long after the sale is over. When it's handled well, people feel relieved. When it's rushed or confusing, people carry regret. And my whole goal truly is to help people avoid that regret. If you take anything from this, let it be this. You're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to take your time, and you're allowed to expect honesty and patience from the people helping you. If you're in the middle of a life transition, whether that's downsizing, managing an inherited home, or simply trying to understand your options, you can also schedule a call with me using the link in the description if that feels easier. There's no pressure to decide anything. Sometimes it just helps to talk it through with someone who understands the process. And if this video was helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you would like it, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this right now.